Culottes.
No, I didn't
Did
like
not care
that.
for that show.
Didn't like that. Sandals was good.
Sandals was
No,
great.
sorry. I saw her at a Sandals.
That's what it was.
That was my fault.
I think maybe we're live. Let's see if we're live now.
Remembering your voice when you said that was priceless.
Oh, lovely. We're live. Hooray for professionalism. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural live stream of Worst First Chapter. Everybody applaud. Yay.
Yay.
So if you are unfamiliar with this, it's kind of in the title. I have gotten a bunch of my cool, awesome, funny friends to write intentionally bad first chapters to awful books that don't actually exist. They can do it in their own voice. They can do it in the voice of another author, existing or fictional. Could be any genre. I don't know what's coming, other than mine's going to be the best. And with that, Please welcome all of my guests. You can see them here in the gallery view. Dannah Phirman, Chelsea Cain, Mike Kaplan, Travis McElroy, Matthew Inman, Michael Ian Black, and Kevin Murphy. Yay!
Woo!
I autocratically decided who was going to go first. Oh, before I do that, I should say that tonight's live stream, and I'll be doing two more in the next two subsequent Wednesdays, all of which will be fundraising for the Actors Fund, which is an organization. They provide support services and financial support and other kinds of services for professionals in the entertainment industry, both people who work on stage and screen and people working behind the scenes. They do social services and financial assistance, provide affordable housing and counseling, medical care and health insurance counseling and enrollment support. They help provide senior care, as well as career counseling and employment training and a bunch of wonderful things. The donation button URL is in the description of the live stream on YouTube, which I pointed at to my left. I don't know why that would be meaningful to you, but you also can just use the short code bit.ly/worstfirstdonate. We're hoping over the course of these shows to raise $5,000 for the Actors Fund. We'll see how that
I'm
goes.
hoping that over the course of my story, we'll raise that. Come on.
Well, that's up to you and how much weight you're able to pull, Travis.
Oh, boy.
Speaking of which, let's go ahead and get things rolling with our first author. He is a podcaster, a writer, a good friend of mine, and occasional employer of mine. Please welcome to the stage, Travis McElroy. How are you doing, Travis?
I'm doing good, Paul. I'm worried that I might fade in and out slightly. I traveled back in time earlier, and I stopped my parents from meeting. And it's been causing some problems for me today. I need to fix that later.
Okay.
I'm very excited because, as you know, my book, The Manor of Lickinghamshire Park Abbey, did come out this month, but I was not able to do my book tour and any of my readings because of this damn COVID. And so I'm very excited to do the first public reading here on your little electronic soiree. So, without any further ado, Chapter 1 of The Manor of Lickinghamshire Park Abbey. It had begun to drizzle outside. "It has begun to drizzle outside," observed Lady Farkington. "I worry that the chaise lounge will become mildewy with this onslaught of precipitation." "Whatever do you mean?" inquired Lord Farkington, glancing down at the chaise lounge upon which he was currently chaise lounging. "No, dear, the other chaise lounge." Lord Farkington looked 3 feet to his left, and his eyes fell upon another bone-dry chaise lounge. Seeing his eyes dance upon the unmoistened lounge, Lady Farkington sighed. "No, I mean that I fear that the patio chaise lounge will become damp." Lord Farkington nodded with comprehension. A damp chaise lounge on one's patio was a very relatable problem that anyone, anywhere could definitely relate to. "Shall we move the patio lounge?" mused Lord Farkington. But even as he spoke the words, he knew them to be utterly ridiculous. First, such an endeavor would require them to journey into the cloudburst now splattering their patio and manicured lawn. Second, what would they do once they reached the lounge? Move it? With their hands? Lady Farkington wisely ignored her husband's silly words. "They say there's a war coming, my love," sighed Lady Farkington, staring out the now rain-speckled window. "Right now," gasped Lord Farkington, moving quickly to the chaise lounge opposite him. "But we were supposed to go to Lord Whimsnickle's for tea and bridge later. Do you think they could reschedule for tomorrow?" "I suppose we could ask them, but you know how wars are." I certainly do, replied Lord Farkington, his mustache twitching with the memory of once reading and almost finishing a book about war. Lord Farkington repositioned himself on yet another chaise lounge, this one by the fireplace. He re-picked up his morning paper from where he had unpicked it up earlier. Oh my, he oh-myed. New news, my dove? Cooed Lady Farkington. The newest news. It seems that the Duchess of Glastonblaster has taken a husband. Taken him where? It doesn't say, replied Lord Farkington, scanning the paper for details. Must still be on the loose. Well, I do hope that she is happy with this one. She deserves it after what the last husband put her through. Did you ever find out why he put her through it? Said she wanted to see if she fit. How is the stock market today, darling? Still functioning. How dreadful. Indeed. Shall we have a drink? Scotch, perhaps? Lady Farkington's eyes landed upon the clock upon the wall. My glove, it is but 9:30 in the morning. Well observed, replied Lord Farkington, moving to the special bar cart / chaise lounge he had commissioned. Better make it a dibble of morning absinthe instead. Quite proper, nodded Lady Farkington, nodding. Have you heard about the Jacob Wiggles' new horseless carriage? I did indeed, ejaculated Lord Farkington, but not in a weird way. Horrid, what happened to that horse? He'll be missed. I have heard that he didn't see it coming in the slightest. We never do, eh, my pet? The door to the parlor opened, and there entered their son, Jeremy. Hey, Mom and Dad, can I have a Hot Pocket for lunch? Lord Farkington tilted his head quizzically. A heated pocket? Whatever do you mean? Are you speaking perhaps of the Cornish pasties that Cook made us all those summers ago when we were in Vienna? Whisted Lady Farkington wistfully. What? Cornish... What? No, I mean the jalapeno and hamburger hot box in the deep freeze. Can I have one? My lad, exclaimed Lord Farkington, wouldn't you rather sup on the joys of your family's company here in the parlor? Parlor? Do you mean the TV room? TV? Lady Farkington understood these letters on her own, but together they confused her. Yeah, the TV, the one over there? Ah, you mean the magic picture box. Okay, whatever. I'm going to have a Hot Pocket, and for the love of God, please stop buying chaise lounges online. We're running out of room. Thus ends chapter 1.
Golf claps all around.
Woo!
There's a murder in the next chapter. I don't want to spoil it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I should have led. You know what? I'm going to recall it. I got some changes.
By the way, for those of you playing along at home, the over-under on how many stories in before somebody used the phrase ejaculating, first story in.
That line in literature is Sherlock Holmes ejaculated out of the window. It's great.
Thank you for breaking the ice. Thank you, Travis. Next up in the lineup is a new friend of mine, newish friend. I mean, he's not that new, but he's new to me. But I've been a fan of his stand-up for quite some time. He was this past year a guest on the Joko Cruise. Please welcome to the podium, Mr. Mike Kaplan. Hello,
Hey,
Mike.
thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I'm happy to be here. Here in the very limited sense of with everyone very, very scared and sad and about much larger things. But within that, there's a bubble where I'm happy. And somebody will die in this chapter as an homage to my grandmother who died last month and who loved whenever she would read a book, she was only happy if someone died on the first page. And then she died on the last page of her life. So she was probably unhappy about that. But here is my story. A real book that I wrote this first chapter of, sincerely. The book is called Doctor Who's on First. Chapter 1, This Time. Everyone died. But first, other things happened. Why does everyone in science fiction stories have weird names? Said Janaclyn to her partner, Bill Quilfenstrimmer, as she leafed through the latest novel by Planet Bornk's most famous sci-fi author, Blig Blorp Blorp Moppenstop. Dave? What kind of name is Dave? Why can't they just use normal Bornkian names like Pidgelwick or Karplewonk? Why does being in space makes people's brains all weird? Bill Quilfenstrimmer was about to answer, but just then the alarm went off. It was time. Not like it was time to wake up. Not like it was time for a dog. It was it was not time to wake up like an alarm clock going off. No, like it was time to respond to the alarm that didn't always go off, but that meant that something was going wrong with the time stream and with the verbs. Understand? Like, have you ever gotten a phone call when something went wrong at the hospital and they say, it's your great-grandmother, which means there's something about your great-grandmother that needs addressing? This was like that, except in this case, the patient was time. Time itself. That's what it was time meant. Also, it might be confusing that patient means multiple things, like the patient at the hospital and patient like patients, like waiting for something in time. But there was no time for this confusion now. No time to be patient, for time was the patient. Oh, did I mention that Janiclin and Bill Quilfenstrimmer were time doctors? And not like Doctor Who is a doctor that travels through time. And look, we all travel through time. Some of us just do it in one direction, mostly. Forward at 1 second per second. Traveling with the current, but of course, like salmon can swim upstream, there are some time salmon beings who can swim up the time stream. Oh, did I mention that these time doctors are time doctors because of the fact that they are time salmon beings who can travel up the time stream and also down it like regular and also side to side? Fish don't just go in a straight line, you know. You know this. Now, you may have heard stories before about maybe time police, where people go fix chronal problems with an aggressive mindset, but that just ends up causing more ripples of unfortune. So one of the first things that the time doctors helped cure was this malady, the malady of the time police, making it so that the universe had never even heard of the chronologico-industrial complex. In fact, what am I talking about? I've never heard of what I'm talking about. What's a time police? Time doctors. That's what we're talking about. So the alarm is going off. Jan and Bill are reacting, but is it too late? Well, even if it is, they can go back to when it's earlier, but this time might be different. This time, what happened to their names? This time, Jan and Bill, those are so weird. This time, is all of time itself dying at the same time? Everyone dies, and then other things happen. End of chapter 1. Oh, thank you. That's nice.
Thank you, Mike. By the way, I forgot to ask Travis this. I will go back to Travis in a second. Mike, now is the time for you to plug the whatever shit you feel like plugging, whether it's personal or charity or all.
I'm happy to plug these two shits. There is a charity that I like called chiliesonwheels.org. They provide plant-based groceries and meals to people, in particular in this time that people might need meals more, but also all times that people might need meals. I am a plant-based person, and that is a plant-based New York City charity. And also, when you're done donating and contributing to everyone who needs it in the Maslow's hierarchy that exists today of take care of your own food, medical health needs, everyone else's food, medical health needs, then please buy my new album. It comes out on Friday, May 8th. It can be pre-ordered now. It's called AKA. So help yourself, help others, get my new album, and then spiritually self-actualize. The album might help.
Thanks, Mike. Oh, and Travis, do you have any plugs that you would care to plug?
I was going to plug Mike's album, but...
Oh, thank you!
You know what? I won't now. In fact, I'm going to cancel out his plug and say, don't go get Mike's album.
I don't think this is right.
This Friday, myself, Gabby Dunn, Kevin Porter, Anthony Carboni, Nicole Phirman, Tybee Diskin, and Johnny Sun are going to do some like Jackbox live streaming to raise money for the Cincinnati Shakespeare Company, a nonprofit theater here in Cincinnati that I worked at for many years and love with all my heart. And I want to make sure that they, make it through all of this like stay-at-home stuff with flying colors. So we're going to be doing that at 9:30 Eastern. And I'll be tweeting about it, like all the links and stuff. But you can go to bit.ly CUSS for CSC, CUSSFORCSC, to donate money to the GoFundMe and to see more details about it.
Yay. Thanks. And also, Chelsea, way to steal focus with the barking dog in the background in that last number.
Sorry, I didn't mute it. Like I got there, and
you were so close.
Exciting, and I thought he handled it really well. It kind of had a frisson in the moment.
And here's the weird thing:
Sorry,
Chelsea only has a ferret.
I mean, hey, if your work makes, sparks a response, you have to honor that response. So it's all good. Up next,
Like very quickly, like Travis, your whole Peter Bogdanovich thing is so amazing.
just in time for the new what is it, TCM series?
Yeah, you don't look quite bored enough, Travis. You get a little more bored looking than that's better. That's
Now I
good.
look a little dead. Let me try.
Yeah, that works too, actually.
Coming up next to the speaker's podium, he is I swear I'm not getting hyperbolic when I say he is one of my comedy heroes, one of the OG cast members and writers on Mystery Science Theater 3000, an author, raconteur, and rocks a goatee like nobody else on this live stream right now. Please welcome Kevin Murphy.
Thank you. I'm just going to prep. You'll understand why when you hear what my story is.
Why didn't I bring the bottle with me? See, this is why he's a pro. You know what I mean?
Nectar's Sour Mash.
Okay.
It's my muse tonight. Donate, buy Mick's record, buy whatever Travis is doing, buy whatever everything's doing, and donate to whatever makes you and other people happy. And my friend Bill Corbett is doing a reading of his play Hate Mail. If you've never seen it, it's wonderful. It's going to be on Saturday, I believe. Details are on the World Wide Web, so look for it there. I'm going to go ahead. I printed out my story just because it's an old story, so it needed to be printed out. Excuse me. Beyond the Dingle, a long and very depressing novel of Ireland. Book the first, The Pie Woman of Nitwick. Chapter 1, Tilly Takes a Spill. As, again regretfully, the dawn performed its daily slog, an acrimonious fog squatted upon the city of Dublin, much like an exhausted circus bear in desperate need of a bath. The ethereal gloam and pain and indifference which stretched its spindly fingers across the pie district of South Nitwick anointed the dimpled cobbles of Picklemore Street, compelling the thin leather soles of Tilly the Pie Woman's once sensible Balmorals to attenuate any consequence of friction, in turn propelling the wan septuagenarian arse of her tea kettle, hoisting said once sensible Balmoral skywards, with Pie Woman's feet still snugly installed, all whilst projecting her modest bog-colored woolen skirt and faded trout-pink petticoat abaft her long-since flat bahookie, and over her wispy-haired bonneted head, carrying with it the shawl that her own gran had knitted for her out of the homespun yarn painfully gleaned from one of their 3 sick ewes, damned be the famine. All such that, had anyone been about Picklemore Street at such a benighted hour, they might have glimpsed, for the briefest of instants, the vision of a flower, an exotic carnation perhaps, measuring 1 double step and 3 thumb lengths, suspended in the very mist, before in the next instant plummeting backside down into the cobbles with a breathy grunt. "Bless us and save us," mumbled the bundle of ancient wool, bruised bone, and papery skin crumbled on the stones. "That'll be the 3rd time this week for that, and heavens, but I've fallen right on top of Tinky again." Tilly assembled her state of dress and peeled the flattened cat from the street, shook it like a feather duster, and deposited it back into the sling, in which she conveyed the hale young ratter. With scarcely a plaintive mew, Tinky licked his whiskers and fell back into slumber. "Aye, and 'twas the pies that saved me naties again," she said with a smile, opening the greasy old haversack she'd sewn together from discarded nuns' habits from the cloister of St. Polycarp of Smyrna. The aroma of tallow, onion, pastry, and questionable meats hit her like the wallop of a bare knuckler. The pies, all 50 of them, rested unbroken and safe as houses, thanks to Tilly's sturdy pie shell recipe. For truly it were a shell, nearly impenetrable, indeed famous for having stopped a black and tanned bullet during the terrible Nitwick pie fight of '07. Up since 3 she'd been, baking these pies for the lads at the abattoir, who would bravely attempt to bite into them for a bit of lunch. Kidney pies, mince pies, stomach, bowel, and throat pies, mutton pies, cow pies, pigeon, goat, and stoat pies. The favorite, of course, were the hare pies. Oh, how the lads loved their hare pies. Pity there were so few hares in Dublin these days. A pie woman's life this was, and all of it. Pies, 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 pies. Pies, 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 and the occasional muffin, but mostly pies. Pies were her work, pies were her life, and pies her pie. And if she ever thought to pie another way of pie, she knew eventually she'd pie herself back into the same pie in which she'd pied her entire adult pie. Pie it is then, come along, Tinky, she sighed, and steeled herself to trudge onward to the abattoir, where the morning's cloying chill would give way to the gut shop's thick air, redolent with offal, hot and moist as a frat tire's underteat. Meantime, she would refashion her sack and trundle on into the insinuating dawn, chanting softly her pie woman's call. Diddly-di-di-day, piddly-pie-di-di, here be silly old Teely, the pie woman, come and have a bite of me pie.
Stately, plump Kevin Murphy.
Thank you.
I wasn't going to say it out loud, but I was really hoping to myself that your story would involve a song. I was not disappointed.
There you go.
Treat yourself to a sip of the sour mash there.
I would love a copy of that to read again if it's available. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Matthew. My pleasure.
Oh my, okay. Now is a good time to once again mention, if you've joined us late, this live stream, as the subsequent Worst First Chapter live streams later this month, are all in an attempt to raise funds for the Actors Fund, a very worthy charity. If you want to donate at any time, the link is in the description of the live feed, or you can just go to bit.ly/worstfirstdonate. You can do that at any time. As we sit here right this second, we are at $775 towards our goal of raising an eventual $5,000. But I think Kevin's story alone is worth another $500 from somebody. So I'm going to click a button here to be sure I know who is next. Ah, yes.
There's got to be a way to make this competitive.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Coming up next to the speaker's podium, another old friend of mine. She's a wonderful writer and performer. She has, I'm sorry to say, Travis and Mike, I think the best custom background game going in.
Hey, I got this myself from the virtual.
That's a default one.
Oh, this is real.
Oh, that's your actual.
My home. I
your
had
actual
built it in fisheye. Yeah.
I was just going to ask if they did it.
I said, give me walls that are rounded and a ceiling that's narrower than the floor. And they said, we can't do that. And I said, do you know who I am? I'm the internet's Travis McElroy. And by gum, they built it.
That sounds expensive.
You said just keep adding zeros until you can do it.
This cost about $20.
This cost 9 ascots that you had to forego.
I'm in Paula Tompkins' house.
Oh, okay. Because and the best part about your particular background, Dannah, is that it just because of the way the algorithm is working, it looks like you're wearing some sort of black nun-like shroud, which I hope is thematically appropriate to your piece. So please welcome to the podium, Dannah Phirman.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, am I muted? No. Yeah, this is my dragon background, and I liked how it looked like it was part of like coming kind of, yeah, it was intentional. I slayed this dragon for this piece. I am a big Anne McCaffrey dragon person, book person. So mine is in that vein, and it's called Dragonesses, book 3. Quote, though they be mighty, it takes a tender heart to tame a dragon, end quote. Morgana's stronghold awoke with a start. A piercing wail rang out into the night and found its way into her flawless ears. Wee-ay! Went the sound. Dragons, she murmured with disdain as she pulled the thin cotton sheet over her head. But sleep would not come again as more howling penetrated the walls of her flimsy hut house. She pulled the sheet around her impeccable naked skin and walked quickly to the window, aiming her gaze skywardly. There were 10 of them, dragons, flying together in a pack. These seemed to be the same breed, with their red jewel-toned scales shimmering in the pre-dawn moonlight, their wings beating in synchronicity at the same time. They called to each other in their secret dragon language, "Why?" The noise hurting Morgana's delicate, unspoiled ears. Morgana never liked dragons. The way they looked down at her from above with their condescending glares, like they knew how lowly her station was in this world. Just then, the words of the mystic came into Morgana's perfectly shaped head. Trust the blue beast, for there is work to be done for the pair of you. The mystic had said a great many things, like that Morgana would play an integral role in the coming Phirman rebellion. But no, she shook it off. Pandar had dared her to go into the mystic's drabby tent that day at the bazaar. Never one to let Pandar get one over on her, Morgana had stepped boldly through the gap in the tent's exterior. But once she saw the ancient old woman, her face very ugly compared to Morgana's pretty one, her courage flailed. Morgana cursed Pandar in her head and also out loud, "Damn you, Pandar." They had been friends for as many rotations as she could remember. But now, as they approached their adulting rituals, she found it hard to concentrate in his presence. His eyes, once so playful and mischievous, now looked at her with longing and desire. For what, she couldn't guess, but if she had to guess, she would say probably for sex. His body, so soft in youth, was now tight and toned from working days in the beryllium plant. Her body had changed as well over the last rotation. Her blood had come, and with it curves where only straight lines had been. The dragons had gone, and with them the night. The red sun rose, as did Morgana's attention. She would be expected in her mistress's chamber at once, with morning breads and Hawaiian tea. As always, Morgana sighed. The mystic should never have put ideas in her head. Her destiny was set. Serve Mistress de Gunther until she died, and probably have a tying ceremony to Pandar. That was, if her mistress allowed it. Morgana quickly dressed in her new uniform silks that the mistress had provided, the soft fabric a contradiction to the kind of dirty work she would be required to do. I stole that. She exited the small hut with her water bucket for collecting water and headed to the watering hole for water. Along the path, well off the main road, something caught her brown but perfect eyes. A glint of something shimmery. She gingerly approached, sliding the small tuttle knife from her breast catcher and readying it stealthily in her fist. As she approached, a soft grunt made its way to her unimpeachable ears from inside the bush. She carefully parted the shrub, and there, huddled in a heap, was a small wounded dragon. It cringed at the sight of Morgana, fearful and in pain, letting out a meek, "Owie." Morgana had never been this close to a dragon before. Something about this creature made her feel strangely at ease. "It's all right," she cooed softly. "I won't hurt you." It stretched its wing out to show her a thin, bloody gash. As the sun hit the beast's wing, she realized all at once it was blue. "Trust the blue beast," she whispered softly. That's what the mystic had said to her that day in the bazaar with Pandar. Blue. Thank you.
That's so great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Wow.
Thanks.
I just want to say, I think breast catcher might be the best euphemism for bra ever.
Dannah, please feel free to plug anything that you want of your choice.
Yeah. I'm going to plug a show that I'm doing weekly this month in May called Brighter on Saturday night, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah.
And with Seth Morris, who's very funny. And we have lots of guests on. And each week we raise money for a different charity. So we've done Big Sunday org and Dine 11 and Downtown Women's Center. So all things kind of affected by COVID. And it's very funny. This week we have Paul Scheer and Mike Phirman, no relation. Well, no blood relation, because that would be illegal. And lots of funny, great people. So yeah, you can watch that. Brightercomedy.com.
Thanks, Dannah.
I'm done.
Our next author, let's move right along. He's an actor, stand-up comedian. He was a member of the state, an author of numerous books, both for adults and children. The vast majority of you will know him as the director of Wedding Days. Please welcome to the podium, Michael Ian Black.
Thank you, Paul. I will quickly plug two things. First of all, I haven't heard from Jeremy Piven during this crisis. I don't know if he's well or not well.
Oh, the poor guy.
So if anybody wants to Venmo Jeremy Piven, I'm sure it would be appreciated. And also, I raise money for the Mark Twain Library here in Reading, Connecticut, which is a library founded by Mark Twain. This is his final hometown. It is a library that is funded, it is not allowed to be funded by taxes, and so it is funded by people, some of whom probably do also pay taxes, and it can be found at marktwainlibrary.com. The Mark Twain Library is also where I discovered the book from which I will be reading. It was buried in their stacks. I just happened upon it, and I thought it was delightful, and I thought it would be a great read for this program. The book is entitled The Piano Teacher's Malaise by Reverend Thaddeus Muldridge, retired. Chapter 1. Mother could be a very quarrelsome bitch. Her temper caused enormous consternation for the entire family. Father, Sissy, the twins Jasper and Jehovah, Twyla with the ghastly red hair, even young Theodore, whose noticeable lisp was only obscured by his more pronounced limp. And while the family was made to endure Mother, it was the staff who truly suffered under the ash of her Vesuvian eruptions. The cook, driver, valets, groomsmen, billiard ball polishers, and penguin tamers. The house ceramicist once received an incapacitating blow on the head from Mother so severe that he had to be packed off to the county seat to recover. Upon waking from insensibility, he discovered that he now spoke only the Swiss language Romanche, an amazing skill which did him no good when he returned to his home in Cornish upon Comeuppance, where nobody could understand him, and he could understand them not at all. Mother saved the very worst of her vituperations, however, for the personable young tutor employed to teach her children the art of piano playing. He was a young man with fair hair and limbs as spindly as the legs of his instrument. The piano teacher had come highly recommended by Lord Wellesley, a demonic cocksucker in his own right, whose wife, Dame Wellesley, had mysteriously drowned in a pool of her own spittle. The day after her funeral, Lord Wellesley married his governess and sent his 13 children to boarding school in Peru. As such, He had no further need for a piano teacher, which is how Roger Allen Quimbley came to reside with the family at Edgerton Hall. All of the children took to Quimbley immediately, except for Twyla, who showed no musical ability whatsoever and was probably not even father's offspring at all, owing to the peculiar carroty shade of her hair, which bore no resemblance to anybody in the family, but which matched exactly the mane of Colonel Fairpence, a drunk and layabout who sometimes visited the estate to reminisce with father about their days together in the Boer War, massacring the natives. Quimbley delighted the other children with his musical ability and his kindly teaching style, which involved none of the corporal punishment they'd grown accustomed to from their other instructors. Quimbley never raised his fists at them, as Mr. Bly did. He never jolted them with electricity, as Miss Kowaleski did, or threw them, as Herr Stromberg did, from windows of the second and third stories. Instead, Quimbley approached his lessons with a soft touch that brought to mind a mama cat licking the afterbirth from her new litter. Such leniency would not be tolerated by the matriarch of Edgerton Hall. Quimbley, mother decided, was a suspect sort, more than likely a Bolshevik, and almost certainly a sodomite. Worse, his lively music infected the entire household with a certain intolerable elan that fell upon mother's mood like hailstones. It would not do, she thought. It simply would not do. Though she could have ended Mr. Quimbley's profession at any time, she decided doing so would only be passing the problem of the soft-hearted piano instructor to another family, the way that son of a whore Wellesley had passed him on to hers. No, she decided, she would take the matter of Mr. Quimbley's insouciance into her own buttery hands. She would make Mr. Quimbley her project, a project that would ultimately bring the young piano teacher considerable malaise.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
Thank you very much. I just need to.
I remember reading that in summer reading and like,
Oh, you did?
yeah,
I
yeah.
think there was a golden book version of that, if I remember.
Yeah.
I had the coloring book.
Really
It's
stuck.
more popular than I thought because I had never heard of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I grew up in oh shit, what's the name of that? And what's the name of that behavioral therapist who theorized that you could people in a box?
Skinner.
Thank
Skinner.
you.
Yeah, Skinner box.
Skinner box. Thank you.
No, I
Okay,
just
back it up and say the whole joke now.
Yeah. Okay.
I had never heard of it, but I grew up in a Skinner box.
Ah,
You saved it.
All right, I got to remember to edit that. Thank you, Michael. Let us bring our next author to the podium. He is also an actual author, as well as the creator of the webcomic The Oatmeal. Do you prefer Matt or Matthew?
I like Matt.
Please welcome, because your name's listed on here as Matthew Inman. It's very confusing.
I prefer Matt. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, Paul, deal with
I'm
it.
just trying to host this thing. Please welcome to the podium, Matt Inman.
all right.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, before you start, Matt, I know Mike has another obligation because, everybody's got all sorts of social obligations these days. He has another event. If you have to get going, you can totally give it the Irish goodbye as needed, Mike. And thank you again for joining us. If I don't get to thank you before you leave. So
I thank
apologize.
you, and I offer to everyone a Jewish goodbye where you say goodbye over and over again, but don't leave.
And once again to the podium, Matt Inman.
Thank you. I just queued up my fancy pants background because it kind of dovetails with my story here. This is a memoir from Braveheart's personal assistant. For 5 years, I was the personal assistant to Braveheart, also known as William Wallace, also known as WW, also known as Dub Dubs. I cooked his meals, I tended his horse, I prepared his goat milk latte in the mornings. I washed the blood out of his tunics. I picked the entrails out of his kilts. I clipped his toenails. I brushed his hair. I even took the blame for his farts. My bad, everyone, I would say. His bannermen would chuckle, trading nervous glances with each other. We all knew when Braveheart piped out a Scottish ripper, but no one dared say so. William Wallace, aka Dub Dubs, was insecure about his gastrointestinal issues. Calling attention to something as innocuous as a fart would result in a 3-hour tantrum of wailing, sobbing, and hiding in his tent, which would delay the cavalry, and in doing so, delay the inexorable march of the Scottish Rebellion. I listened to the first drafts of his pre-battle speeches and only ever offered up constructive notes, such as, I really like the ending, or you should seriously consider being a writer. When in truth, his speeches relied less on quality prose and more on skyward sword thrusting and lots of yelling. I carried his enormous sword, which he nicknamed Lil Willie, just so that in the final moments before he ended another man's life, he could say some stupid fucking line like, your life was graced by William Wallace, and your death will be consummated by Lil Willie. I cleaned his sword, I oiled it, I sharpened it, I even fashioned a tiny crib for it into which he would whisper tender lullabies every night before he slept. I listened to Dub Dub's midnight rants about life, death, liberty, freedom, and how to prepare a sheep jerky marinade. I sat across from him during these rants, bleary-eyed and praying for sleep, averting my eyes as he crossed and uncrossed his legs, completely unaware that he was flashing me a pair of sallow barnacles nested within the hairy brambles of his underkilt. And then there's the whole blue paint thing. My men must have blue paint on their faces, he demanded. Blue paint or we go home. Dub Dubs, I said, I know you had your heart set on blue, but it's a really difficult color to mix, and we don't really have time to find the appropriate dyes. And blue, goddammit, he thundered. Blue or the rebellion is over, and we go home and suckle on the teats of our mummies. His men roared in agreement. And just like that, it had to be blue. Do you know how difficult it is to find blue paint in 1300 AD? Brown paint, no problem. Yellow, mostly doable. Red, I can make that happen. But blue? Fucking blue? Nothing in this pipe-begging, sheep-fucking, rain-soaked orifice of a country is the color blue. I was also responsible for emptying his chamber pot. 3 times a day, I toted that mustard-stained chum bucket of nightmares out of his glamp-worthy tent and deposited its ordnance behind a tree. I cooked all the nourishment that went into the body of Braveheart, and I was responsible for what came out later. I was the shepherd of his shits, the baron of his irritable bowels. In a way, his bowels were like his battle cries. They demanded freedom. They roared for revolution. They thundered out of Dub Dubs, and their thick black waters smashed against the English countryside, leaving behind a wake of haggis, feces, and unfettered freedom. This memoir tells the story of that Braveheart, a misanthrope plagued by vicious diarrhea and bratty belligerence. It's a peek behind the curtains of a tormented man and his tormented tummy. The behind the man, so to speak. This isn't the story of the William Wallace you knew. It's the story of the one I knew. This is the story of Bravesheart.
A long walk for that great pun.
Oh, that was just so worth it. So good. Oh, I'm so glad it ended up being about poop. I just really am.
You can't go wrong with poop jokes. Just,
No.
yeah.
There was also one perfect moment, Matt, where like your head was perfectly framed by Mel Gibson's hair, and it looked like it was brilliant.
It really was.
Awesome.
Thanks for that, Matt. Let us go right to our next writer. Our next author is, according to the first line of her Wikipedia page, an American writer of novels and columns. The reason she is one of my favoritist people, if not my favoritist, is that among her works was a run of Mockingbird, which, in addition to being awesome in its own right, made me, Paul Sabourin, official Marvel canon, because I'm in there as me.
You signed over his life rights.
I did. I totally signed over my life rights, but it was totally worth it. Suck on that, all y'all. Please welcome to the podium. Oh wait, shit. After all that buildup, Matt, do you have anything to plug?
After that awkward, no, I don't have anything to plug, but thank you.
Well, fine. Remaining one of my favoriteest people, please welcome to the podium, Chelsea Cain.
Thank you. Hello. First of all, I think just so we avoid this later, the Actors Fund, great like organization. Like apparently it's to the left of us right now. But right, like there's something you can click on if you're watching this to support the Actors Fund.
Oh, it's under us, yes.
It's under us. Like, yeah, look and see under you and click on that. And even like $5, $10, $15, anything, like don't donate $1 more than you can. I know everybody is, you know, like it's a very hard time, but like
Chelsea, I feel like you're just trying to get the most donations during your reading. And that's kind of like, it's kind of unfair. Kind of unfair.
Yeah.
Wait, is this your chapter?
Did you actually not write this, Chelsea?
I didn't know we could do this.
Okay, we've all been drinking. I understand that, but I want to plug bookstores, independent bookstores, and independent comic book shops. They're all independent. Because there are a lot of them in your communities that are trying to hold on kind of desperately, and many of them have come up with creative ways to do that, including like curbside delivery, or like they'll have somebody actually come to your house. So if there is a bookstore in your area or a comic book store that you have frequented or been to or driven by, give them a call and buy a book, because that could be the difference between whether that store is still there in 3 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks. So keep that in mind. So in that spirit, I'm going to read, and I love that we all ended up going with different genres. I think that's crazy because this was organized in that sense.
Or any sense, to be honest.
No, at least it's science fiction, and this is one that I had done before on the cruise. It is called Cryonic Tears Taste Like Honey by Chelsea Cain. This is science fiction. You might be able to pick up on that. Chapter 1. The Fazoop carry their young in their foreheads above their third snout. The pustules appear over several days, increasing in redness and inflammation until a blister forms and then pops, releasing a tiny fetal Fazoop into the universe. Makana Ha knew this because she had gone to school with a Fazoop, the West Side Space Detective in Culinary Academy, but she was still unprepared for what lay before her. The face of the dead Fazoop had been savagely filleted, revealing the creature's fatty, tender interior. Bits of spongy blue brain matter speckled the slick walls of the cryonic chamber. Judging by the smell, a salty mix of ammonia and corduroy, the victim had been dead for 4 to 6 hours. Makana Ha eased the murder weapon into an evidence bag. She was no stranger to the Rest Easy Discount Cryonic Center. It was the cheapest cold storage in the galaxy and a frequent crime scene. But what had led the pregnant queen to seek shelter here? It had been her last mistake. The open maw of her empty forehead womb glistened with traces of placental pus. The crown prince of the Fazoops was missing. That's it.
Oh, more.
Please.
I really want to read that book, and I'm serious.
Yeah.
I really want to know what happened, and I want to read that book. So
We'll collaborate on that.
okay, great.
I'm 100% with you on that. Thank you, Chelsea. One last time, before I say it for one more last time after this last reading, we are raising funds for the Actors Fund. You can donate at any time at bit.ly/worstfirstdonate. We are currently at $900. I would love to cross that $1,000 barrier for this show. It would get us on a wonderful pace for our eventual $5,000 goal. I am going to close things out. And you're absolutely right, Chelsea. I love that everyone took different. I love everyone's differing approach to terrible as well. Like there's lots of subtleties in everyone's.
Mine was very
angle. Good.
I meant to make mine bad, and it turned out very good, Paul.
Well, that's just your
so frustrating, Travis.
I know. Yeah. Listen, I can't do a bad job. Like I phoned this in. I forgot to write it until yesterday night. So I phoned it in, Paul, and it was still platinum covered gold. And I'm sorry for that.
Well, it is very hard to be you. I know, Travis.
Thank you.
I know that. But I am going to do a piece that I did for the first Worst First Chapter show It started out as an event called Worst First Page on the Joko Cruise a number of years ago. And then we took it to San Francisco Sketch Fest a couple of years ago and expanded it. And for that Worst First Chapter, I did the following piece, which is another science fiction piece. My approach to Terrible was to grab it by the lapels and shake it until it is dead, with these two-fisted tales of adventure. Get into character here. Steel Baptism, the Cucklords of Beta Prime. Book 3 of the Retribution of the Eagle Templars quadrilogy from the ongoing Gunfucker Chronicles series by Ivan P. Manlywolf. Chapter 1, Black Dawn Rising. Well, fuck me hard in the taint. Prometheus Gunfucker was in a tough spot. He'd been in tough spots before. Stuck in level 26 of Empress Coctesia's pain maze on Amygdala 3, single-handedly taking on an elite squadron of Westphalian changeling mercenaries while armed with nothing but a pair of sai and a handful of hirashuriken, which the dumb shit mercs kept calling throwing stars, or Jesus fuck almighty, ninja stars, even as Prometheus hurled them into their tracheas. Trapped in the fuck mines of Vaginus Major, stripped of his ginseng and vitamin E supplements. Yeah, he'd been in tough spots before, and he'd always come out just fine. Usually literally involving cum, because Prometheus Gunfucker porks all the chicks. But that was then. This was a whole new then. Because right now, in this then, Prometheus Gunfucker was standing in the middle of a huge fighting pit. Specifically, he was in one of the infamous tit pits of outer Sidebubulon. More specifically, he was in the planet's largest tit pit, and this was the main event. Like center court at Galactic Wimbledon, although Gunfucker wouldn't be caught dead playing galactic tennis, which is strictly for girls and pussies. Gunfucker only engaged in sports designed for ultra-high T-level males like himself: laserball, cockfighting, Russian roulette, explosion rugby, and naked oil wrestling, no homo. The grandstands surrounding the ring were packed with thousands of cheering, ugly alien motherfuckers, each motherfucker uglier than the last, and looking like they fucked mothers just as ugly as they were. This riffraff from dozens of different galactic races were all shouting, placing bets, drinking, throwing bits of food and trash into the ring, swallowing whatever substances worked as narcotics on their respective bloodstreams, and generally being fucking ugly. Prometheus Gunfucker paid this rabble no notice. His attention was engaged elsewhere. Standing across from him in the pit, roughly 20 lunar yards away, was the tallest, largest, most jacked humanoid Gunfucker had ever seen. Gunfucker had seen tall, large, jacked humanoids before. The slave trooper homunculi from Homunculus 1, the hulking, hair-covered berserker men of Rothfuss Omega, the mammoth shit gunners of Quarthon, who had nearly destroyed Gunfucker's ship, the Anime Seduction, before he sent them back to whatever hell they'd hatched from. Yeah, he'd seen tall, large, jacked humanoids before. But this humanoid was taller, larger, and jackeder than any of them before. Even worse, this one was a goddamn woman. In her right hand, the she-beast held a katana, 2.5 meters in length. The cutting edge, or yaiba, glinted in the lights of the arena. Gunfucker instantly knew by the sori, or curve of the blade, the faint green glow of the tsuba, or guard plate, and the particular weave of the katate maki of the tsukaito, the battle wrap style of the silk handle wrapping, and the nakago mei, the maker's signature mark on the back of the blade, that this sword was forged by the blade masters on New Nipponsu, whose blades retained their sharpness for 1,000 years and could cut through a battle tank hull like space butter. In her left hand, she held an M41B pulse rifle, 10 millimeter with over and under 30 millimeter pump action grenade launcher, pretty much like the M41A pulse rifle in the movie Aliens, but different because this was an M41B, not A, so nobody could get sued. Either way, it was a badass weapon that could fuck up whomever and whatever its owner wanted up-fucked. She was covered in liquid nano Kevlar blast armor, strong enough to withstand a point-blank Gauss rifle blast, yet thin and form-fitting, highlighting what Gunfucker had to admit were phenomenal boner-inducing curves, from her stout calves and calipigian rear meats, all the way up to her toned biceps and massive, round, gravity-defying knockers, like two hefty Charlie Brown heads mounted astride her sternum. Also, Gunfucker was totally nude. The Amazonian warrioress, who had been standing serenely with her eyes closed, slowly opened them. They were ice blue, setting off nicely the near-white blonde of her hair, which fell loosely about her shoulders and halfway down to her previously mentioned fine, fine ass. She gazed unblinkingly at Gunfucker, her eyes shooting daggers. Metaphorical ones, thank Christ she apparently hadn't had cyborg optic dagger launchers installed yet. She leveled her katana at him, and the crowd hushed to a dull murmur. "Prometheus Gunfucker," she exhorted, loudly yet softly, masculine yet feminine. "I am Hera Shavencleft. You killed my father at the Battle of Rifthaven. You killed his brother in the Second Battle of Rifthaven. You killed their father at the memorial service for the fallen soldiers of First and Second Rifthaven. And you fucked my mother and my 4 sisters at the Rifthaven Marriott Grand Marquis. Today, I am going to kill you. I'm going to kill you super dead. So fucking dead you wouldn't believe it. I'm going to murder every single part of you. Your eyes, your heart, your blood, your balls, your hair, your feet. You're that thing between your nose and lips that I can never remember the name of. Your house, your toothbrush, your goddamn name. Maybe even your dog if you have one, but not your cat if you have a cat, because I like cats. But you get the general idea, I think. Anyway, get ready to die, scum shit. The crowd erupted, and side bets flew anew. Soon a buzzer sounded, signaling the imminent start of the match. Prometheus Gunfucker looked at the warrior woman across from him, and how she was totally kitted out. He looked down at himself with no weapon, no armor, nothing but his legendary, huge, veiny, throbbing cock to swing. He looked back up at his opponent and weighed his options. This was going to take some serious negging. Thank you.
Wow.
And we're back to Paul Sabourin.
Oh, the whole time.
Yeah, I always feel pretty filthy. I'm going to need a shower or 3 after that one. We are up to $1,175. Thank you, everyone who has donated thus far. Thank you to all of our authors. Again, as I see them on my screen, Dannah Phirman, Chelsea Cain, Travis McElroy, Michael Ian Black, Kevin Murphy, Matt Inman, and Mike Kaplan for joining me this evening. Thank you so much. I had no idea how this was going to go this evening, and it did not fall apart, which is the first most important thing. Again, I will be doing these the next 2 Wednesdays, May 13th and May 20th. I'll be announcing the lineup for the May 13th one very, very soon. Thank you all who joined us on the live stream. It will also be available on that site for future viewing. If you didn't get a chance to see it live, or if someone you know didn't get a chance to see it, I will be posting the link, and you're more than welcome to come and watch all of these wonderful, terrible, awful works by all of our authors. Thank you. I really, really appreciate you all jumping in to help raise funds for a worthy cause. And please go back if you weren't paying attention and review the other possible charities that our various authors have mentioned. As Chelsea said, these are obviously difficult and uncertain times. Please only donate what you can spare. But if you can spare something, it would be great if you could put it somewhere useful and helpful.
Paul, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
Even if you can't give money, you can give sharing this video with other people, sharing links to things that you care about. Just getting the word out there is as important as donating yourself. So even if you don't have money to give, which is totally understandable, educating and sharing is something anyone can do.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Travis. And
I
thank
don't
you
know
all
if
once again.
it's 7 o'clock here, and I'm in Portland, Oregon, West Coast.
Yes.
I don't know if you can hear, but everybody's out on their porches playing music, hollering.
Right.
For healthcare workers right now.
All right.
Where I am, it's 10 p.m. and both my children are asleep, and I'm so glad people aren't doing that around me.
Of course. I mostly wanted to just explain the noise. But also, we do what we can, and that is something people can do.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. We will see you at the next Worst First Chapter. Thanks again to all of our authors. I've been collecting everyone's submissions over the course of Worst First Page and Worst First Chapter. Eventually, I'm hoping to publish them for some sort of charitable good. We'll see how all that goes. But in the meantime, what am I forgetting to say? bit.ly/worstfirstdonate. You can do that anytime. The link is open for at least the duration of May, and let's all raise some funds for a great cause. And thank you yet again, and we'll see you again very soon, and we'll see you all in person at some point once the world returns to some semblance of normal.
Thank you, Paul.
Bye.
Thank you, Paul.
For having us.
You guys.